Now, Ghana will be joining at least 8 other countries to roll out phase 3 clinical trials for 2 COVID-19 vaccines. About 1,500 volunteers will receive at least 1 full dose of the Russian-made Sputnik-like vaccine or the Sanofi vaccine in a space of 13 months. Already similar trials are being run in the US, Russia, Egypt and the UAE. Here's team lead for the trials of the Sputnik-like vaccine in Ghana, Dr. Alberta Amu, with details of the exercise.
Designed is a randomized, double-blind, placebo-controlled international multi-site study. The duration of participation is up to 201 days. There's a screening period of up to 7 days. Then there is vaccination. Then a follow-up period of 180 days, plus or minus 14. The locations for the study are United Arab Emirates, Russia, Ghana, and Egypt. The study will cover participants who are 18 years and above and are healthy. Throughout the world, there will be 6,000 participants. The random allocation will be 1:3. 1 of active IP to 3, I'm sorry, let me take it again. 1 placebo, 2, 3 IP. Random allocation. So in Ghana, there are going to be 2 study sites, the Dodo Health Research Center, and the team will be led by me. We are going to recruit a total of 500 participants. In Avongo, they will also recruit 500, and the team is led by Dr. Nana Kosi-Ansah. The study will start on the 28th of June, and the schedule of events will be: number 1, the first, after community mobilization and sensitization, the first visit will be screening. After participants have screened and those who are found eligible, and provide informed consent, written informed consent of active participation in the study.
With the current global shortage of vaccines due to vaccine nationalism, Director of the Research and Development Division of the Ghana Health Service, Dr. Abraham Oduro, believes Ghana's participation in the advanced clinical trials will better position it to access the jabs when they are ready.
The Sputnik V and the Sputnik Light, the difference is that the V has 2 doses, with 3 weeks apart, and the Light are just the first dose. But the available evidence suggests that the Light has about 80% efficacy compared to about 90% plus in the V. So if you combine the fact that you are going to give only 1 dose, the logistic bit of it, the cost bit of it, and everything together, and looking at some of the available vaccine that we are using, some of them even around 60%, then obviously if we are successful in this study and you're able to prove that the Light is 80%, then it's very good. Because cost-effectively wise, to be better to use 1 single dose at 80% efficacy or thereabout, means that you could vaccinate more people at a cheaper rate. You can also be people who accept the vaccine even at just a single dose compared to 2 doses. So all these logistic, administration, cost, economics, science, combine everything together, the Light would end up being superior.
Does this have any implication on our access to the vaccine? We know that the Sputnik V, we're having challenges getting it from the Russian government because of vaccine nationalism, and perhaps because we didn't really contribute to the development of the vaccine. Does this have any implication on our access to the vaccine later?
When you contribute in developing the product, you have a better chance of being given the vaccine. Normally the sponsor would either donate some of the vaccines to you, either for free or at a cheaper rate. Because if you are going to compete to procure the vaccine, you have not participated. They are likely to give the one that has participated. The population that participated in the study, they have a right to get the vaccine when it's proven to be good. So it's very good that we participated. There are a lot of evidence that some of the earlier childhood vaccines that we are currently using, because we participated. So that's it. So some countries got the vaccines early because they participated in the study. So that's how it is. They can either give you free, you have the chance of being given priority in terms of pitches, or it could be cost-wise, depending on how the contract is structured. If the contract is structured and say that instead of maybe $20, we'll give you $10 because you participate. These are all some of the things that will be factored into.
Well, Director of Public Health at the Ghana Health Service, Dr. Franklin Sirubekwe, says the country is stepping up surveillance at the airport to properly monitor and contain the Delta strain of the virus first seen in India.
What we have now is that people are positive. When you are positive, then we now do the genomic sequencing. Do you understand? So that is what has actually detected a few of the Delta virus. For now, we are not very sure whether we have it in the community. But I mean, if you have a very efficient virus like that, Delta, then in that case, if it enters the community, you're going to have a surge in the numbers. For now, we don't have that surge. So we can't be very certain that it's in the community. But what we try to do is that, you know, if you look at the second wave, at that time, we were not sure whether it was there's a UK strain. But there were two things that were very evident. You know, you had a very, I would say, a very naked population. Naked in the sense that people are not conforming to the protocols. And then you introduce another efficient virus, you're going to have a surge. So that demonstrates that clearly something is happening. For now, we don't have the data to support that something is happening. So what we were doing was that for the past like 4 to 6 weeks ago, when we started having a reasonable number of cases from India and United Arab Emirates and Turkey, we were anticipating that could be a new variant. So what we were doing was that those that were negative at the point of test at the airport, we tried to follow them up to see whether they can become positive, and somehow none of them became positive. But now that there's evidence of it being detected, we're going to do likewise to follow up possible contacts. But let me say that, you see, that the test results is not real time. So what we do is that they do the test at the airport. It takes some weeks before the results will come. But that ultimately, either the case would have been discharged or things like that. So what we do is we try to look at possible areas that have more cases, and then we try to follow up their possible contacts. That's what we do. And one thing is that, so if you have such a threat, the issue is that you ask yourself, do you have a cellular system that can detect? So we have one at the airport, which is the antigen testing, and then the two is the health facilities, whereby people will report and they will be suspected. So that's what we have.
Well, joining us for some analysis on the phase 3 clinical trials is UK-based pharmacist and CDD Ghana fellow Dr. Kwame Sapong Esiedu. Thank you very much, Dr. Sapong Esiedu. Now, this must certainly make you a lot happy, because you've been advocating for a while now that Ghana positioning itself to take advantage or to participate in some of these clinical trials.
Yeah, I mean, it's a brilliant day. I wouldn't dispute that in any way, shape, or form. Anyone who has followed the last 3-4 weeks of the brouhaha around the Sputnik vaccines and the lack of vaccine supply to COVAX countries would realize that there's no point in being a bystander when it comes to vaccine availability. So for us to make this move, and for me, that there's not a backlash compared with what happened with Ebola, compared with what happened with the malaria vaccine, is a brilliant day, because it looked like now the penny is dropping, that we cannot be bystanders and buy finished products. And that should be a good thing.
All right. But are there any guarantees that the fact that we align this to happen, we're going to get vaccines?
Yeah, I mean, when you do things like this, no government, and I've been saying this since 2014, no government will go into a contractual obligation to put its citizenry at potentially harm's way, because at phase 3, even though a lot of things have been checked and safety has been checked, side effect profiles have been checked, there's still a risk. In fact, there is a risk even after emergency use authorization. That is why the word emergency use authorization is used, and adverse effects post-immunization have to be monitored. So if you are going to use your citizens as quote unquote the testing sample, then any country would put it into their contractual obligation that should this become successful, this is my pound of flesh. I mean, it's like what Sherlock the Jew said, you cannot take a pound of flesh without exerting blood. So I would be surprised if the Ghana government, and for that matter, those who went into this agreement, didn't factor this into consideration.
Now, the Russians have been criticized for the way they went about the production of the Sputnik V vaccine. They said there was not enough transparency. Would you say they're doing things a lot better now with the fact that we're having clinical trials here in Ghana and other countries?
Well, yes. I mean, you said there's no transparency, and that is your big beef. Now they've brought it into your country where you are doing the trials, you are collating the data, you are reporting the data. What more transparency can you ask for? So in a way, it is more like the Russians saying, well, there you go. You want transparency, you give us transparency back. And for me, that is the beauty of science.
Now, let's again look at the way they're going about it. How different is this vaccine and the way it is being produced from the Sputnik V?
Technically, it is the same vaccine. What happens with vaccines, and that's why the word emergency use authorization is bandied around, is that initially you do not have enough data. It seems to me that the Russians, based on large-scale use of this vaccine, you must bear in mind that currently close to 100 million doses of this vaccine have been given across the world. And it's been used for more than 7 months because Turkey and countries like the UAE started using it as far back as December. So they have enough data to measure what's called the antibody titers, which is how long the antibodies which protect you should you get infected last in your bloodstream. And are coming to a conclusion that it probably lasts long enough so that if the initial dose is adjusted properly, you don't need a second dose. And you need to bear in mind that this is what we call a vector-based vaccine, which is similar to the AstraZeneca vaccine and is similar to the Johnson & Johnson vaccine. The Johnson & Johnson vaccine is a single-dose vaccine. So from a theoretical standpoint, there is enough basis for them to try and gather evidence to see if one dose of this vaccine would be as effective as 2 doses. And so if you ask me the question, what do I think? I think I'll go with the science, and what you're doing is embedded in science.
All right. Now, finally, can we also use the fact that we are allowing this to happen in Ghana to get some Sputnik V vaccines, even before the Sputnik Light is produced?
Well, yes. I mean, it's like a meal in a household. Once you're at the table and you're eating, banter starts. And when banter starts, the dynamics of negotiations change. We all know that historically, a lot more deals have been made at the golf course than they've been made at the negotiation table. So for me, the minute you move the needle to the point where you can get to banter, it's like the sort of conversation you and I would have in the background where you are now having a conversation. It's not the same as the sort of conversation I have with you when we're having this interview. Yeah. But we'll get a lot more understanding in the background that we would get on air because there's political correctness and all that. So the answer to your question is yes, it would move the needle, and a lot more things can happen in the background than has hitherto happened as at the start.
All right, thank you very much, Dr. Kwame Sapong-Yesiedu. He's a pharmacist, a UK-based pharmacist, and a fellow of CDD Ghana.